Hello everyone. Welcome to the second session of Hall B and the third session of today. So first of all, I would like to remind you that there will be QR codes on the screens, and you can use these QR codes to ask questions for our participations. And also a reminder too, you can get your headphones from the door. So for the simultaneous translation, when you give your ID, you can take your headphones.
Çok teşekkürler. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to International Women and Justice Summit organized by KADEM. I'm Meryem İlayda Atlas. I'm a journalist and academic, but I'm a volunteer and a member of KADEM academic board. And in my professional life, I'm a board member at TRT, Turkish National Broadcaster. I'm very excited to be here to discuss a greater issue about AI and relating its importance with women, because it's a very pretty new issue actually. And we have rock stars here. I don't know the other sessions, but I should say we have really rock stars of AI working, ethics, democracy, which are very, very newly and visionary issues for the era we are living in. I am very pleased to be here, and I want to pay my gratitude to everyone in this room, but some special thanks particularly to President of KADEM and all of the KADEM members and team organizing such a gorgeous event. And of course, our speakers, guests coming from all over the world and making a great, valuable contribution here, and also esteemed audience here. Thank you very much for coming and sharing this experience with us in a Saturday afternoon. I don't know if all of you know about KADEM, but now KADEM is an old institution, over a decade, and working as a non-profit, non-governmental organization with thousands of members, 55 branches all over Turkey, and dealing with lots of international issues, representing in the United Nations, working with EU projects, and lots of international projects, conferences. But first of all, what is KADEM for? Yes, justice, democracy, but this is something KADEM wants to build a society, wants to build a world for all of us, a fair and a safe society for all of us, where women can live with dignity, without violence, with equal opportunities, which is a fair and just world. And this word of justice is very much important for us. That's why we are calling Justice and Women Summit. Because otherwise, when you just exclude the justice outside of the world, so there is need for democracy, there is need for equality. So we have to fight for it and fight for the women's rights. So that's why we are organizing this event, Justice Summit, every 2 years, and this is the 6th summit. We are touching upon different diverse issues in every summit, and in this year's summit, in this year's theme, we will be touching upon the generated AI technologies and their impact on women's positions, women's objections, women's positions, and women's opportunities. So why are we organizing such an event? Because as I told you, this is a very much new issue. But this is why we organize this, because we believe that women can and women must be a part of the AI preparations. Women should be actively be part of the AI processes. If anyone says that AI is value-free, AI is impartial, and AI in the artificial intelligence without women is okay, sometimes they say us do not put everywhere the word of women into everywhere. So if anyone says that, this is inconvincible for us. So we want to, if we want to empower women in life, we have to empower women in the digital world. So let's narrow down the subject and come to this session. We have Anna Prika Dr. Jess Evans and Merve Hickok, and I will introduce them briefly before their speeches. And this session is Democratic Advocacy and Right-Based Activism. And this is, I believe, very important part of the AI. Because as I told you, the AI systems are not value-free. And this is something to do with the democratic values. This is very crucial to prevent biases, some kind of one-sidedness when you are generating AI in technologies. So if we want to construct a world with lack of diversity, lack of inclusivity, lack of misrepresentation of, lack of representation of disadvantaged groups, and if you want to create an AI with one-sided perspectives, with injustices, with inequal opportunities, oversimplifications, with lots of cliches about women. So this has something to do with the democratic rights and values, and all of these issues and problems directly related with the democratic decision-making processes. So we have to consider it. Let's start today. I'm gonna start with Ana Prica. Ana is with us from Romania. It's not a faraway country. Jess and Merve are coming from the US, from faraway countries, let's say overseas. And Ana Prica is one of the rock stars, as I told you, and she is playing a very important role, globally very important role in promoting AI technologies and progressive educational technologies and adapting them into the real world. So she's also working in ethical AI, and she has a very global effect and working on this issue more than 2 decades. So none of the spatials here are like working this issue 2-3 years, because I have to say that this issue became popular in the last 5 years maybe. But the experts are working it on for decades and decades, because we are coming to a place, but this is also something new, if I'm not wrong, talking and discussing AI and gender together. So, Anna, my first question for you will be about decision-making process, as we have just mentioned. So, how can we make AI more inclusive, more participatory for the democratic decision-making process, that we can include more and more people? Thank you very much. So, by the way, before start, you have got approximately 5-6 minutes for your first questions, and I will ask each of you 3 questions, and we will have 3 rounds, and then I will be expecting questions from our audiences. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. First of all, I would like for all of us to have a common understanding of what democratic systems represent today. And I would like to go over some statistics, some facts, when it comes to data granularity, and hopefully this is going to be some food for thought. Women and girls are 25 less likely than men to know how to leverage digital technology for basic purposes. Women and girls are 4 times less likely to know how to program computers. Women are 13 times less likely to file for an ICT patent. 6% of professional software developers are women. When it comes, 66% of the time, technology facilitated gender-based violence, starting with cyber harassment. So this is what democratic systems represent today when it comes about representing women and data granularity. In order to understand where we stand, we need to have data representation. Exploring the ethical implication of algorithm decision-making and advocating for transparent, accountable, human-centered AI systems that promote social justice should be a top priority for all of us. In the digital times, I'm going to go back and say, cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I exist. Cogitandi era, for me, it's a lot better than digital times, because our human ability, our power, should be enhanced by AI and not replaced. Our curiosity should not be dulled out. It should be enhanced, and we should feel that's helping us evolve, not taking us back centuries. So data representation is going to be a first step in analyzing and actually be able to evaluate the correct landscape. If there is no data or it's not granular, we will not be able to make progress. Definitely how humans design tech can influence friendships and democracy. Therefore, for today's session, I want to thank KADEM very much for the opportunity to evolve together. UNESCO created several tools and solutions, such as readiness assessment, such as ethical AI frameworks. These solutions can be customized based on the country's profile, can be tailored. There is no time to reinvent the wheel. Therefore, if there are some frameworks that can be adapted to the country's content, maybe we should think in incorporating this so we would have a global overview. Keeping people accountable, it's going to be critical. While AI can enhance efficiency, transparency, and all of these lovely things, we know that definitely today it does exacerbate the inequalities, and we see this more and more. If we don't take the digital, the AI, and give it somehow a physical dimension, we don't perceive it as threat. And in the earlier panel, I liked very much, because I've done the same thing with doing the resemblance between an FSD or eVTOL that everyone perceives as threat, right? Like robo-taxis. You need to regulate, you need to ensure. But if you give the same person an AI chatbot and just a phone, and they use a keyboard, they don't see the threat anymore. So somehow, for the people, we need to take the gray from the clouds, bring it into physical, so they perceive the impact that it has upon humanity, and make technology understand common ground for everyone. This is a playground for all of us. Education should be available and tailored for all stages and phases of life. Women are not a minority. Women represent half of the world's population. And yesterday, I enjoyed so much when the First Lady said that it's a bird that just flies with one wing. So that metaphor touched my heart, because I looked at the statistics and I was like, how can we say that today the systems that we have in place pertain the democratic justice when we know that we are not represented? So putting people back in control and making sure that AI does not empower only the selected few should become our lifelong mission. Life as a service towards equity is what we should all be ready to contribute and to bring our support. We cannot say we're going to leave the rest to manage, let them be. No, because this affects our daily life. This affects our thinking process. Therefore, we should think that there is no democracy without informed citizens that are capable to critically monitor what's happening and to be able to question and have debates. In a place where you cannot question and understand how your data is being used, who owns your data, is that a democracy? Is that a democratic justice? So maybe going back to the roots and understanding what we should all know, where we need to ask the questions, who should we ask, do we have the frameworks in place? It's going to be essentials. If a country does not have legislation that protects, supports, empowers, and offers funding towards equity, then it's going to be a nation that's left behind. And I don't think that throughout history we want to rewrite it just because of digital and think of our future history before AI and after AI. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And well, now what the threat you mentioned is not for individuals, but for also governments and for democracy, for all of us. And there's a saying, history is a foreign country.
Oh, yes.
And somehow we can adopt it like women are like foreign country for the world system sometimes, like, aren't they?
Yes, unfortunately.
Yes, let's continue from this point, from democracy, from threats. I want to skip to Merve Hitchcock. Merve came from USA. you are an entrepreneur, right? You have your own entrepreneur, and she's an academic. And do you know she is the first Turkish woman the US Congress ever invited for her testimony. Yes. And guess about what? Of course, AI. And the US Congress asked Merve if it is possible to happen an AI revolution in the US. If you have time, I just would like to ask you if you can mention briefly about this issue. It's very interesting. And of course, she's not only making testimonies in the Congress, she's the president and policy director of the Center for AI and Digital Policy. And she is an internationally recognized expert on AI. So let's continue talking about democracy, Merve. Okay, AI is there, but we have also democracy, norms, values, and human rights issues. What will be the impact? What will be the interaction of these two together? Thank you very much.
Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation to come here. It's great to be speaking here. Also, my parents are in the audience listening to me for the first time. I think when we talk about, Anna had a great introduction about our democratic values. The way that we define democratic values is our access to human dignity and human rights, first of all, respect for minority rights above majority, fair elections, access to information, access to factual information, fair elections, etc. So when we look at what those democratic values are and how AI, both predictive AI systems, social media, and generative AI systems have been impacting those democratic values, as well as human rights, we are seeing an erosion of all of these values, as well as our human dignity and our human rights.
By the way, my second question will be about gender and women specifically. Mm-hmm. So just mention about generally democracy and human rights in this round. Okay.
So right now, we have both the corporations as well as the countries, but really more of the corporations collecting a lot of data about our behavior, our locations, our political leaning, our preferences, consumption, etc., and then are able to turn that around and tailor that into personalized recommendations, personalized propaganda, personalized disinformation. So we've seen this over the years with social media, but what is happening right now with generative AI is I don't need, like it used to be, that you would have one message, one deep fake, and you would send that out to millions of people in the hopes that it would hold, right? Right now, we have very personalized data about every single one of us. We have generative AI, where you can create disinformation and deep fakes, your personalized deep fake, and then messaging around that. And then we have a lot of communication applications as well as social media applications where you can disseminate this information, whether it's social media posts or like Telegram, WhatsApp, etc. Messaging platforms, we're seeing more actually on the messaging platforms than on social media, these personalized messages. So what's happening is I am able to, if I'm a corporation, I can use this data, generative AI, and communication channels to say, Mariam, this is like, I have this information about you. I know like what your political leanings are. Obviously, I don't say I know, but the messaging, underlying messaging is helps polarize you, provides you disinformation, and you don't have access to that information to actually make factual decisions by yourself. So we're driven by this, what I call as perfect storm of data dissemination and deepfakes. So it has impact on both the media, our individual access, our preferences, and our human rights. On one hand, on the democratic side, and on the human rights side, we are constantly surveilled. So our right to privacy, our right of expression, our right of association, all of them are eroded. So you might be knowing that you are surveilled, knowing that these corporations are collecting information about you, you might say, I'm not going to post it on this media. Like, yeah, you're self-censoring, self-controlling your own democratic expression. You might not be going, associating yourself with certain people, thinking that there might be either disinformation or more advertising passed to you, or there might be some political pressure as well. So,
you want to add something? Okay. So what you're talking about, this personalized content by the AI, is very dangerous, I believe. So, because Stalin or Hitler used this war of machine of propaganda machine for different causes. But human beings before the digital times were alone in their bedrooms. Now we're not alone because we have this with us, and this has a content personalized to each of us, and we don't know what is expecting to us. As you said, that you cannot control the process. But enough of talking about threats and threats and dangers. I want to now give floor to Jess Evans. Let me introduce her. She's a businesswoman, and she's Vice President of Strategic Services, Higher Digital Global Technological Executive. But do you know that we have a woman around us who is the most influential woman in high tech? Jess was chosen by World Leaders magazine as the most influential woman on high tech in 2022.
Yes.
Congratulations for that.
It was my first cover story.
So we will keep listening you as the most influential woman in high tech, and she's also a technology executive. She's working on transformation, cybersecurity, data science, lots of things. But I'm, much more interested with this being a very influential woman in high tech. And we will be talking about opportunities.
Yes.
Because, of course, it's creating dangers, but also opportunities. But also we will talk with another challenges later on.
We will.
But let's talk now for democratic participation, for transparency, for democratic development. What are the opportunities we have? Tell us something positive, please.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for allowing me to be here. Thank you for the invitation, KADEM. I am honored to be able to be here with such esteemed colleagues and professionals alike. So thank you so much, everyone. I'm so glad we're going to talk about the positive. I am the glass is full. It's not half empty, it's not half full, it's full. It has half of water, half of air. I'm 100% optimist. So, we've talked a lot about negative aspects, the biases, the things that generative AI are currently concerning us. But there are some fantastic opportunities out there for us to leverage this technology in many positive ways. We've heard so many repeated avenues. Today I'd like to throw something else out there for you to consider. Smart cities. So one of the reasons I was on the cover is because I participate in developing policies and procedures in government for helping build smart cities in America. Smart cities can bring true aid to safety, security, prevention, detection, traffic patterns, different things. If we use generative AI, facial recognition is a problem. The large language models absolutely need to be retrained, as many other speakers have said today. But they can also be used for helping detect crime, for understanding if there is a threat. I work in universities largely, and I'm actually just accepted a CIO job at a university in America, so I'm going to leave the business world and go back to academia. And in campuses across the country in the United States, we have real threats. We have real problems. Active shooters are a real problem in the US. Leveraging a smart city technology where we have a mesh network that can identify targeted areas and maybe use that to redirect our students away from the violence. This will help women and communities as a whole. If you have large traffic problems, or if you need first responders to get to an area, we can leverage AI to help us be smarter about how we can save lives. There are some very positive things that we can do with generative AI. We do need to fix some of the challenges first, but there are real opportunities out there. We can improve health outcomes. We can gain efficiencies in policy making and helping social services be more readily available to the underserved communities. We can help target while we have targeted information, and that does lead to extremely poor behavior right now. My hope is through ethical responsibility, where we leverage these partnerships, we can build targeted information to find the underserved communities, to find the women who need help. Maybe they need health care, maybe their children need care, maybe they don't have any access. So there's a huge digital divide that we need to address. And we can use AI, generative AI, to figure out how to get to those individuals faster and give them better access. There are examples globally where, like Estonia, is leveraging generative AI to improve tax processes. Now, I'm sure that's not really fancy and wow, but the people in Estonia are really excited about their tax processes going much faster because it cuts through bureaucratic red tape. So if we can use our powers for good, there are some real solutions out there that I would love for us to really focus on building in a positive way. First, we need to mitigate our biases, absolutely. But there are some really great opportunities for use generative AI for the better, for women, and for the world as a whole.
Thank you very much. But for using AI in smart cities, maybe it's possible in New York in a grilled system, but it's not easy to use it like all cities in Istanbul with
No,
sharp
it's not.
slopes,
Yep.
lots of dead ends,
Exactly.
and narrow old streets. We hardly use sometimes navigation.
Yeah, and so I appreciate that point, and so I'd like to share that there is some LiDAR technology that helps mitigate, and so I'm looking at this technology. So we have advanced LiDAR where it does a 3D spatial recognition, so it understands the pitch and the height and can recognize the differences from, I don't know, do you guys have cats here in Istanbul? Oh, yeah, okay, good.
Lots of cats.
Right?
Istanbul is popular with its cats.
I know. So the LiDAR can real-time recognize a cat to a human and understand the differences. And so this is the technology that they're using in self-driving cars. And so what my big mission when I was at Arizona State University was to fully autonomize. We use self-driving cars, so Waymo. I don't know if anybody's heard about Waymo. This is a car that drives itself. It is in a grid system, so it does make it easier. It is cheating,
but
I guess.
Tesla self-driving car is not, it's not for Istanbul.
Oh,
now,
no,
not
definitely
yet.
not. After having been here, it would not survive. No. But that means there just needs to be a large language model that can train it and understand it. But the LiDAR is intelligent, and it can have spatial recognition real time, which then would promote improved traffic patterns. Maybe we can even improve the traffic in Istanbul. I'm not sure, but we could try.
Of course,
so those are some positives.
I'm just joking, but
Of
I'm not sure again about the cats. Cats are different creatures. They are sometimes very invisible.
Well, we don't want to run over cats as much as we don't want to run over people. So.
Okay, now let's go to deeper and deeper to some ethical considerations. My second question for you now. And because, as Jess mentioned, underserved groups, underrepresented groups, disadvantaged groups. So what we are expecting from democracy to touch upon for the needs and actions of these communities, for not to reduce the number of disadvantaged groups. So if we just put AI, the generated AI, so is it possible to make it available for all of committees, and what will be the ethical considerations for transparency, for accumulation of services, for this and that? So what's your position?
Definitely, yes. It is something that's achievable, but I think that most important, we should all be ethical solutionists. So if we start with that hat on, our perspective and our mind shifts, then it's switching from profits to sustainability and the future of generations. So definitely the posterity will judge all of us today, that's for sure. And Posterity will have the final saying when it comes to how we judge our ancestors and how we provide for our descendants the future. Therefore, how we act is critical, but being part of history means that you are being represented appropriately. Being part of the future means that you have a history and you have a presence. If you don't have any of that, you cannot talk about a future. Therefore, bringing everyone at the table and making from uninformed citizens active participants that are able to debate and have good conversations about what they need, having their voice heard, it's something that we need to do in order to get there. At this point of time, we keep on talking about bias and so on, but do we really understand what is a known bias and unknown bias? Because sometimes we might not be aware and we actually perpetuate some stereotypes without knowing. So our knowledge has to definitely go multidimensionals, and we need to acknowledge our differences, and we need to acknowledge that yes, AI can be amazing for humanity because it has a great computational power. Humans would be burnout. AI can do all of that lovely magic. But let's not think that this is an AI mirage. We need to know the path towards ethics. So this means who is being represented, who educates, on what content, what sort of platform, who has access, who regulated, who approved. These are questions that we should ask freely and not be afraid of who's going to hear me if I'm going to challenge you. Being able to challenge your vision means that I'm living in a democratic system. Me being afraid to challenge you and asking a question about where is my data, who owns my data, do I have access, who is monetizing on my data at the end of the day? Because if I'm producing the data, if I'm offering you the data and you're making money, how fair is that? I don't know, that's one of the things. But when it comes to AI systems, definitely this is a 360 approach. It's all hands on deck. We cannot blame it on one group or the other. We all need to play our part and be aware of what it means. The technology cannot be a foreign language for all. No, it needs to be translated into cultural norms. It needs to be adjusted to the country's vocabulary.
It has to be part of education.
Yes, yeah, it's part of the education, because only an educated citizen is going to be able to move away from a biased system and would be able to challenge that and put that into effect. If you're not educated, how do you know if that AI chatbot is giving you a good answer? You're just going to write, copy, paste, whatever, and perpetuate the biases. Otherwise, you're going to click deny. I'm not going to eat this cookie. I don't know the ingredients. I don't want to have this. Please report and give me good access. If we have this option, we will be able to live in a more just, ethical world. If we leave that in the back and we say, let's not think, let it to the great minds, well, we know where this is ending up.
This is what you're saying is also very important for the financial systems.
Yes.
They are all AI generated now, and like the older generations living very hardships, sometimes lose their money, cannot control their own wealth because of these banking systems and this and that. All of our AI generated now. So this, we need some kind of literacy.
Yes, 100%.
AI literacy.
That's going to be the first focus.
For all of us. That's a necessity. I think that can be one of the outcomes of this summit. So the AI, the necessity of AI literacy for all of the citizens.
But for all stages and phases of life. So I don't think that we should focus on women that are just in school, right? And no offense, but I think that women in rural areas need to be the ones targeted first and be able to adapt the education to their understanding. Because we cannot have people migrate from rural to urban and then we're going to be complaining about the rural issues that we have. Go find the people where they are, understand their perception, offer them possibilities to develop, and then you will see that area how it flourishes. Perfect. From economical, digital, physical, and digital. but we need to meet the person where they are and bring the education. Yeah.
We will continue from that point,
Thank
but
you.
I want to ask Mary about her perspective. So in your first round, we talk about the general issues of democracy and human rights. So I want to specifically ask you the gender impacts of AI, about women, about of course, the underrepresented groups are included in this question, but specifically on women and AI relationship in terms of democratic rights.
Thank you for that question. So first of all, I would like to say we've been working on AI for very long years, discussing these issues, trying to resolve some of the issues and bring policy, regulatory, and business changes to this world. Before, we were able to sort that out for predictive AI systems that are embedded into your car, your watch, your social media, etc. We have been hit by another round of wave of generative AI systems, which are even more impactful in terms of their the way that they amplify, the way that they deepen discrimination or discriminatory outcomes, stereotypes, etc. It's not even. Last night I was having a conversation with one of the guests. It's not even reflecting the existing inequalities, injustices in society. It actually amplifies and deepens. So with generative AI, without the safeguards, without the guardrails in place, we are actually going to have deeper and wider issues between man and woman, between minorities and majority, between disadvantaged groups and those haves and have-nots. It really is in every single domain, from a woman's access to credit, women's access to education, women's access to work, and anything and everything in between. So we need to understand that this touches every point, and I kind of want to continue with what Anna mentioned. We are never just a citizen. We are a citizen, a consumer, a professional, employee or an entrepreneur, a mother or father, sibling. So AI is at any given hour throughout the day. AI is impacting our work life, our social life, our political life, our economic life, our family life, our neighborhoods and social structures and social net. So we need to understand that impact. But I want to say that specifically for gender issues that KADEM is working on, we are working at my organization, we can also use AI to as an exploratory tool, as a discovery tool, right? You can flip the coin for bias and say, I'm going to use AI to actually discover bias and use that as an evidence-based tool to make change. So I'm thinking about, not to force AI decisions, but use AI as a statistical tool to predict trends, to predict historical patterns, etc. So what can we do with it? You need a lot of data for AI, right? So I'm looking one step back. Where do I not have enough data for gender issues? And I was listening to this, so I'm going to read this if you don't mind. Do we have enough data for school-age girls who are not at school? Child labor. Do we have data for domestic abuse, domestic violence? Do we have enough data about gender wage gap? Do we have enough data about property inheritance, gender differences in property inheritance? Do we have enough data on online gender violence? And the list goes on. When we talk about, KADEM is more familiar about, gender violence and gender inequality issues than I am. Any single issue that we're working on, we can look and say, do we have data that we can use AI as an exploratory tool? And if we don't, you know that someone has not prioritized that issue. We prioritize commercial AI systems, the ones that are going to make money to certain companies, but no one is collecting data or exploring the problems for gender systems, right? Because it doesn't make money. You're trying to solve a social issue. You're trying to improve society, narrow the gap between inequalities. That is not profitable. That's not for corporations. So we're seeing all of these systems that we're saying problematic are usually the systems that someone decided that, okay, if I deploy this, I'm going to make money. It's about market share. It's about, and then I'll work on bias issues, etc., inside the corporation. But these are the issues that we really need data, where we can use AI to make change, evidence-based change. And I would really like to see, for example, us focusing on talking about the positive uses of AI, using it as exploratory tools, and actually asking, why are we not looking at this? Why do we not have tools for this? Why do we not have data for these issues?
Very good point, yeah. Want to continue or finish?
And then in terms of the advocacy side, again, we can have positive uses of AI in terms of we can look at court cases, right? There we have data. We can look at how the court cases have been decided for women, and then use that for exploratory results. We can use AI to, just like we do with social media, to expand knowledge, expand literacy, etc. And I totally agree, at the bottom of these issues is, one, literacy. Like I said, as consumers, as citizens, as parents, we need to increase that literacy about how AI is impacting our lives. The second is access to these systems and access to internet. Before we can even talk about AI, generative AI, do you have internet? Does the rural areas have internet? Does those who need AI most, because it's going to democratize access, right? Can you actually democratize access if you don't have internet? So for me, it's like really literacy, access, and prioritizing the issues that are going to move women's rights, move women's causes further in the space.
Well, your point is very important. We can teach the AI that this post, this word, this behavior is abusive, this is gender violence, then they can automatically ban this post. Because United Nations has a campaign since 2015, and they're saying what is legal in life should be legal online, what is illegal in life should be illegal online. So this is mostly concerned about women, and especially young girls who are just facing with abusive violence because of their interaction with the unknown people. But mostly, in everywhere, the governments and the social media companies, this is another side of it. This is something other side of the story. But I will briefly mention the social media companies are not going in cooperation with governments most of the time. So you have to go to court and you complain about this case, and they find its IP address and this and that. But apart from that, if we teach AI that this behavior is abusive, this is violence, so then without human control, they can quickly and automatically ban this interaction or something, whatever. So, so this is very important to protect the population and youngsters. So I will continue with Jess. Now, Jess, we are talking about bias. She also talk about bias. Yeah. And of course, we can use AI in very positive ways and lots of opportunities. I would say in media sector, the AI is very much effective on gathering the news, because otherwise editors are doing it, going and searching in Google. But the AI could go and, can bring you latest news hourly. So you don't need to go and look with human labor. But lots of positivities. But what we see in social media and in other platforms, the lynch culture, hatred speech, misinformation, disinformation, bias, and sometimes violence against some ethnic groups, some racism, some other disadvantaged groups are increasing unproportionally. So this is also a challenge for our societies to create participatory democracies. So what are these kind of potential risks we are facing with? Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. So moving to the more serious side from the opportunities, there is a real concern, and it has been a theme throughout our whole conference, about governments leveraging generative AI in harmful ways. It is true, it is real, and it's been happening already. The scarier part is that there is no policy regulation, there is no global enforcement, there is no standards, and we'll get into that into the next question, but for right now, the bias and misinformation, Merva alluded to it earlier, individuals are targeted based on your Google searches, based on your voice responses. Your devices that you have are listening all the time by default out of the box. It is up to the user to turn those features off. If you do not, they will start capturing data on you regularly, which is unfortunate. We have to educate. We have to make sure everybody understands what the technology is and retrain the large language models. It's not just the algorithms that are used, it's the data that's within them. If you have bad data in, bad data comes out. It's a very simple formula. We have to improve the data. I cannot advocate more for everything that you had just shared. The data is most important. We don't even have the right data, which is why bias exists. We don't have the data on underprivileged children, on rural areas, on single mothers, widows, children, orphans. We don't have that data. And most of those communities do not even have access to the internet to provide the data. Misinformation is a big moneymaker. It is being led by US corporations who have invented these platforms and other global corporations, but you can focus on the big US ones because they have the most data and no one is regulating them. It's a very sad situation globally because it promotes inequity, it divides us more, and does not bring better outcomes for women or underserved communities in general. It is a real problem. It's not just about the code. I am a software developer. I wrote code in 12 different coding languages. It's not the code. It's the humans behind it. It's not the code. I want to say that again. It's the humans behind it. The statistics that have been shared at this conference, 6% of software developers are female. I am one of 6%. I can try my best, but I don't write code anymore. I'm now an executive leader. But I try to make sure I have more women coders because when you write code, it is very hard to mitigate your personal bias because you are a human. So we must educate our developers. We must educate our communities. We must educate all of our politicians on policy making. Because the only way we're going to mitigate bias is if the humans who are writing the code can overcome their own biases.
Thank you very much. That will be another outcome, I believe so. So now let's talk about a bit about solutions. We are now making our discussion, but we need some kind of proposals. What will be the initiatives, Anna? What will be the platforms to create awareness about generative AI, and how can we create it, how can we develop it in a more democratic way?
There are many tools out there that can be used as standard frameworks. And I'm going to talk in particular about the ones that UNESCO is offering, right? And these are some solutions, some frameworks that can be taken and tailored to country, company, profile, and adapted. So they're not standard. And I think that that's a very good step to start reporting and to start really understanding where you are. Are we progressing? Are we stagnating? Are we regressing? These are things that we need to understand, first of all, and to have a very clear vision when it comes to where is this AI going to take me if I keep on using it, right? Because if I'm not going to be using all my human abilities, and some of those would be replaced by something, what is this transposing for the future generation? So, and we have as humans to think of our own limitations, because we are the ones that back in the days when seatbelts were offered in a car, we refused to buy the car because we thought that seatbelts is making the vehicle dangerous. So with that thought in mind, and this is not a century ago, right? So if we were afraid of seatbelts, we were afraid of electricity, it killed an elephant, we were afraid of so many things. We can be afraid of AI, or we can actually say, I'm gonna embrace this technology, but in order to embrace it, I need to understand it, right? Lots of apples fell, but just Newton cared enough to go ahead and do all the logic and the physics in the back. Today, we see AI, and I'm gonna do a parallel, I'm gonna say AI, it's like an apple, right? It looks good, it smells interesting, but if you taste it, and it does not give you the nutritional value that you need, if it moves away from an apple a day keeps the doctor away, and if this apple is taking you to the hospital later on and is damaging your mental, physical health, etc., is this good for you? Now, taking this, putting AI back into perspective, if I'm using AI daily, but I do not know the implications, and only governments or only technical companies know how to use that data, is this serving me? Is this serving humanity? These are some of the questions that we should start thinking first, and then we should go and seek the knowledge, and after the knowledge is received and understood, then I think that we can move into really making AI, AGI, etc., work to benefit humanity. Otherwise, from user to abuser, it's a really small step.
Very nice, user to abuser. But you know, the word user is only used for like drug users, smoke users, and on internet users. So it's creating a sort of dependency.
Yes.
That's why we call it as user. And it's, as you said, you're very right. Future is coming. Future is there. So if you're afraid or not, it's coming. So we have to know how we can navigate it. Yes. Maybe not change it. Maybe not completely stop it. Or we can have to learn how to live with it. Navigation.
But exploring without the explorer curiosity, that's no exploration. So if we as humans are losing our curiosity because we're getting everything served to us and we take that for granted, or we say, okay, this is good, because that's what majority do, right? Whenever an AI replies or gives you a solution towards something, if we're not exploring further, then we're not really explorers.
We are not late, right?
No, definitely we're not late, but I think that putting funds into this and making sure that each citizen is prepared to understand, I think it's going to be the crucial step in order for us to move forward. No, we are not late, but in order to be part of the future is making sure that our history, our cultural values, everything that represents us, as we said earlier, it's being represented via data. If we don't see that data pattern there, it means that that is not going to be represented into the AI systems. So having a clear, transparent pathway that's understandable is going to be crucial. And admitting what you don't know without thinking of consequences, it's going to be even better. Because if we're afraid if me as human, I'm afraid to ask you as human a question, but I rely more on an AI system to reply, what does this tell us? Because as we said earlier, each input and output, it's controlled by a human mind. So we're not afraid of an AI system. We're afraid of the human mind behind it that is perpetuating inequalities and exacerbating the situation. So we need to act in sync and make sure that our knowledge is kept with funding. That way we evolve as women, as diverse groups, to be able to be represented in history and in our future, and be kind once again to our past and protect our descendants. Yeah.
Yes, and I think that we are not as late as to like the relationship between the Industrial Revolution and the environment, because protecting the idea of protecting the environment came so late, just when everything was happened. So we are, I believe, that at an early phase to speak all of these, especially for gathering the data. And somehow we are living, Anna, we are somehow living in a manual world. Last month, one of my friends go to Amsterdam to speak AI, and he said, I was stuck in the elevator before my speech. So we are somehow living still in a manual world, so we can, I think that it's a great chance that we can build a greater future with the contribution of AI. So my question about solutions to Merve is, you just mentioned about the personalized content. You talk about the child labor, the violence, gender violence, abusive content, all of these. And what will be the check and balances, the guardrails to prevent all of these to happen, especially to women, minorities, and disadvantaged groups? What can we do?
And I'll connect that with the question about the Congress, like you wanted to check in what I advise, because that was one of the exact questions that US Congress asked as well. And the question was, is US ready for an AI revolution? And what
was your answer?
I said no. No, we're not ready because we do not have the guardrails in place, we do not have the public literacy, and we do not have the government expertise in place. So what does that mean? We are deploying systems, or corporations are deploying systems without guardrails, without doing any impact assessment, any risk assessment, any bias assessment, just because it can, again, create money for them and they can have a market share, market lead in this product. So first and foremost, we need regulations to ensure those guardrails are in place, because one promise after another from the corporations is not enough. Voluntary promises, voluntary code of conduct is not enough. We need to make sure that these discriminatory outcomes, these negative adverse outcomes we protect the people against these outcomes. Second, this is before deployment, right? We need to ensure that we have all the checks, we're comfortable with deploying a system. And let's say the system, the product is deployed, then we need ongoing guardrails, ongoing assessments, internal and external as well, to ensure what we deployed stays as safe as possible throughout the use of that product. Again, what you do internally is not enough. As much as we want diverse teams, we want a representative data sets, monitoring systems, etc. That internal system is not enough. We really need external experts, auditors, independent people to be able to access the systems, audit them, and provide independent preview or independent expertise of what they think the system, the problem is. And then I already mentioned the literacy piece and access problems. And then the last part that I also advised to the Congress was we need to ensure that the systems that we have in place, that existing regulations you mentioned, if it's illegal to do something right now, it is illegal to do with AI, right? But we do not have the expertise in the government and the regulators to be able to monitor the systems, to go into a Meta, an X, or Amazon, or whatever, the small, big companies, and hold them account. My organization, CAIDP, we were the first one, and I believe the only one, to actually bring a complaint to a Federal Trade Commission on OpenAI, back in March 2023. So ChatGPT was deployed mid-March. 2 weeks later, we submitted a 46 page to a Federal Trade Commission, the Consumer Protection Agency in the US, saying GPT-4 and ChatGPT, we do not have an idea of what kind of training data set was used, what is the bias, there is no transparency, we have issues with public safety, children's safety, consumer safety, accountability, etc. It's a very long list. And we asked the regulator to investigate OpenAI for consumer protection, for public safety, and children's safety. We're still waiting for the regulator to finish it. They opened the investigation. We know that they opened the investigation. But a year and a half later, we're still waiting for FTC to finish that investigation. And that matters. If you don't have the expertise in the government, you're not able to apply the existing regulations, let alone new ones. We're also working with senators in the Congress to build new legislation in the US, for example, for transparency disclosures. If you don't know as a consumer, as a citizen, if you don't know that you're engaging with an AI system, or an AI system is making a decision about you, then you're not able to ask if there is bias in the system. You're not able to say, I'm biased, or I want to contest this decision, I want to challenge this decision. So first and foremost, we're asking for transparency disclosures to tell the citizens, tell the consumers that an AI system is being used. And then second, be transparent about what kind of data was used, what kind of design decisions went into that system, and who's responsible if something happens, and what kind of bias, risk mitigation, risk assessments, impact assessments that you have done. So we have a lot of work, like I said, with the Congress to ensure that those mandates, those transparency disclosures are in place. And we also mentioned, I want to say, environment is a huge issue here. We're also, because you're seeing, especially with generative AI, there's huge impact on like energy consumption, freshwater consumption, and these companies, data centers, are pulling energy and fresh water from the local municipalities, right? Your drinking water becomes fresh water for the data center without your consent. So there are a lot of local communities, cities that are fighting with these big corporations again. So we want disclosures about the environmental impact of these systems as well as the data centers as well. And I just want to give one example, like in terms of what a corporation prioritizes versus what a woman or a citizen or a consumer prioritizes. Just last week, Meta deployed its Meta Glass with a new software. And what it does is you wear the glass, it has a facial recognition system in it. It also has a search function in it. It also has a LLM function in it. So when I'm looking at you, Maryam, I'll give you as an example. So you know what the first example was? A guy from Meta's team trying to do a demo went out wearing this glass, randomly went into a train station, looking at a female. With the facial recognition system, he was able to know exactly the name and the last name of the female. With the search function in the glass, he was able to find where she lives, her social media accounts, her social preferences, her consumption preferences, who she voted for, any information, where she works, any information that, and then he approaches to her and starts to, are you Maryam? You remind me, like, am I correct? And when someone asks you, are you Maryam? You're like, oh, you must know me, right? It's like, yeah, but I don't know you. Like, how do you know me? And he starts saying, like, yeah, I think I watched you at this speech. I really appreciate it. I would love to have a chat later, etc. In a demo, like this is a dangerous product for women. In a product demo, the first use is about identifying a woman and potentially stalking her with her personal private information. So imagine that this is a consumer product. Can you, as a woman, safely walk out of your house knowing that others around you in your neighborhood, random people, will know where you live, What have you done? Are you single? Where you work? What do you do? Will you feel comfortable for that? No. It will create more gender violence, more
This is
stalking.
very utopic, you know, scientific, like everyone is...
They just deployed the product.
When you just look at everyone, then you just see the ID and everything in their faces.
Yeah. And they just deployed the product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 2 weeks ago. It was
And
all over the news.
imagine, like, if you were in the product team as a female, would that be your first, like, would you go up to a male and try to stalk that male with that product?
Yes.
Yes.
But just, I will say, science fiction is good, okay. Fiction is good, and they are happening, we see. And all of these developments, all of these glasses and everything is good. But why women are always the first victim?
Exactly. Exactly.
We're not against it. We're not against the AI or open. Yes, it's something good. But why it's not good for women at the very first hand? So we need to ask that.
Exactly. Exactly. So again, like I was saying, like just to summarize what I was saying, we need more literacy as consumers, as citizens, so we can ask from our lawmakers, from the people who make decisions about change, about more protections, so we can demand from corporations, from companies, better products that actually serve us rather than serve the companies. And we can protect our children, our families, our social network, our social structures. But we cannot do this alone. We don't have the power to fight against these corporations individually, so we need those guardrails and those regulations in place as well.
We need regulations, policies. You mentioned ChatGPT. I'm a tutor at university, and I am teaching students. While I was at university students, we were writing term papers. We were going and searching, reading books. For last couple of years, ChatGPT is writing all of these essays. When we put them on the internet for plagiarism, we can't find anything because they are unique papers written by the AI. So as a solution, I know many of my colleagues are doing the same thing. We are making exams with pen or pencil with papers. So this is somehow going back, because we can't manage it now, and there is no system that this is written by AI. I can't prove it, and the student says that this is my work, and I have to grade it, so it's good. But this is not, I know that it's not written by the student. So we are going back to Aristotle and the ancient times, the very, very early form of teaching, writing with pen and pencil to a paper in some couple of hours under observation of the teacher. So this is not a good solution, I should say. This is something contemporary, like it cannot be permanent. So I want to ask Jess, what will be the policy, the legal requirements that we can fight with it? So we understand the situation, but we need a kind of policy. And in this summit, exactly, we will be proposing some policy advices. So what will be your advice?
This is a really critical issue, and I just want to really thank you for bringing up the meta class, because it is a real stalker problem. So this speaks to how do we protect all human beings, but especially targeted genders and targeted underserved communities. How do we protect these things? Now, the UN have just published in September of this year their full report on AI. They have a proposed AI governance framework. And they give 7 major areas where they want to call attention globally, and then a call to action at the end. It's a beautiful 148-page document that if you're having trouble sleeping, by all means, dive in. Let me spare you that, and I'll give you the 7 areas right now. And I bring this up because when I looked at policy making and rules, it can't be one country. It cannot be. Because right now there is just 7 countries in the entire planet who are leading in the AI revolution. 7. That's a disservice to the planet, which is why I want to lean into the UN's report, because it is inclusive of all countries. And so the first thing they call for is an international scientific panel. representing all genders and cultures. Go to where they are, Anna, I'm so with you on that. And bringing these scientists in to improve the code, improve the logarithms, that is most crucial. It will also help underserved countries understand the scientific ramifications for their own culture. The second is to open a policy dialogue and AI governance structure globally and have representation from every country on this committee. The third, and most important, is an AI standards exchange. Now this is important because this is the only way you're going to be able to hold these corporations accountable for development is through standards. ISO, International Standards Organization, IEEE, and all of the other organizations must put forth standards. Unfortunately, our capitalistic nature in the US does not really promote anything except earning money, because that's what shareholders want. Everything's driven by finances. It is unfortunate. That is why bias is never addressed. That is why it's not prioritized. That is why our systems, even to this day, 2 weeks later, Meta comes out with glass that could basically help stalkers in the world. This is a problem. Artificial intelligence has been here since 1950. Why have we not matured? Why do we still have biases? It's because women are underrepresented in the services and solutions that then come forward. So if you have an AI standards exchange and you press on these organizations to employ bias over capitalistic nature, which that will take a massive effort, it will take government, it will take laws, it will take auditors. I love your proposal about auditors. It is the most important aspect that is missing. Every financial organization has to go through a financial audit. Why do technology companies not have to go through the same? It is a common public good, but it's not really good when it's biased. So an AI standards exchange must be preeminent, and the UN has nailed it in a positive way. The fourth one is capacity development network, super important. What does capacity development network mean? That means how many people do we actually have that know about this technology? Leaning into both of your shared speeches here today, we don't have enough people who even understand what this is. The literacy, the definitions, what we call these things. Because there are cultural divides and we're not going where the people are, we have a real disparity in our language, let alone our culture. So you must mitigate those strategies by bringing us together and recognizing what those are and getting true, consistent definitions. And the only way to do that is to put these people in a room and start advocating for everyone, not just one. So then, of course, the UN says, we need money. So their fifth app is a global fund for proper AI development. And I don't know how they're going to accomplish that, but it is number 5, so I thought I'd mention it. And number 6, another really, really crucial one. It's a generative AI data framework. They want this group to figure out how governance weaves in standards, policies, definitions. It will be the 6th element that will kind of weave all of their other calls to action together. And so let's make sure the framework is consistent and it's easy to use. Frictionless, they use that word. That was my word. I don't know how they can. I'm like, did they sneak into my, I love frictionless. So frictionless is a word that I use in digital transformation all the time, meaning when you have friction in your day-to-day activity, like I have to log in, then I have to do 2-factor authentication, then I have to give blood, and then I have to promise my firstborn child just to authenticate into a system, that's a lot of friction. Frictionless experiences was the pulpit that many developers stood on saying, this is going to make your life better. Unfortunately, it's only as good as, what I said earlier, the humans who wrote the code. They don't always have your best interest at heart. So we need to make sure that we have a really great dedicated framework. And then their last one is that they want a dedicated AI office in the Secretariat in the UN, which I think is absolutely critical. We have network standards, we have wireless standards, we have accessibility standards on the web. So only recently, recently, I'm sorry, in the last 10 years, are there enforced accessibility standards for a website? You know how you get those little cookie things, right? Well, there's also, what about the blind? I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure you guys understand the blind can't read the website. So there must be accessibility, so they have audio. Well, what about deaf? If you have audio, then you need closed captions. These are biases that exist everywhere, and there are policies that are coming in the web space. Unfortunately, we need them in the AI space sooner. I want to touch on, are we too late?
No, yes, we have.
No, I want to build upon that. We're not too late. We're not too late, but we are at the most critical tipping point. And if we do not take action today, yesterday, we will be so much further behind and writing with more pen and paper because of the lack of trust and the fear. The fear is real. If we do not take action today, we will set ourselves back another 50 years. I can't remember who had the slide up in the previous panel, but they said it takes 132 years or whatever it was for us to get to gender equality. That broke my heart. 132 years, generative AI can solve problems today like that, and it's going to take us 132 years to get there. There's something wrong with the model. And policy and regulation is the only way, globally, we are going to get consistency, because the inconsistencies are putting everyone at danger, specifically women and the underserved communities. So we must look at this UN report. And yes, I know I joked because it's a UN report, so I might put you to sleep. But it is imperative that we as leaders understand this call to action and advocate on a global scale for it to happen, because it's the only way we're going to get rid of bias.
And otherwise it can turn to a new age of exploitation.
It will, absolutely.
For other nations who have no access, no money, no ability, no technology for all of these things.
It's a very sad situation.
Thank you very much for your valuable contribution and this fruitful discussion. Before we end up, we will have a Q&A session. And somebody told me that with QR codes, they will be, because it's the AI world, they will send the questions with QR code. And how am I going to reach them?
He's coming right behind you.
AI is coming behind.
Asking you shall receive.
Okay. I was just expecting it will come from the air. Okay.
Meanwhile, I think that...
So, a question for all of you. I have to translate it because the questions are Turkish. So, question for all of you, for the decision makers, a very important question, because social media platforms like Twitter or other platforms where the digital diplomacy is going on, mostly not used by the decision makers, like the ministers, like the PMs, not all of the representatives, but their advisors, their people are using this. So for a decision makers using Twitter, it's not possible for people, it doesn't mean they are accessible. So there is a second something like bureaucracy. And while the situation is like that, how can we create awareness about these human rights violations for the decision makers? So the question is that.
I think I can just give a couple of examples from the US election because it's so recent. One is, we don't know, like in the previous election, 2012, you might remember Cambridge Analytica, right? So Facebook provided all the information to both the parties and candidates in the UK as well as the US. And to this day, we still do not know how that data was used to change the election results. This year, for those of you who are using X, You might have seen how much Elon Musk himself was involved in the conversation. For better or worse, he has freedom to talk as well.
But Elon Musk is, I think, living in Twitter. Like in X now, it's, I'm sorry for the platform.
But he was able to use the platform.
He's tweeting 24 hours. Yeah. Now, you know, I just go sleep and, you know, when I just, it's like pages and pages. He tweeted all the night. And when it is day, I know that it's night in the US, he's still tweeting.
I don't talk about his sleeping patterns, but I think he's able to use his platform, a very powerful platform that touches billions of people, as for his own political preference, right?
That's what I mean. There should be a team sending these tweets on behalf of him. So he's not maybe the actual actor. So the question is about that. So we don't have a direct access to these people. So their team, their people, advisors are doing all these tweets. So how can we? It's not a good opportunity, direct access for the decision makers.
Well, it doesn't have to be about social media, access through social media, right? You can call your representative and have a meeting with your representative or your local representative through those, or have petitions, or create your own campaigns, not be dependent on their social media accounts. I think there are different methods to reach your representative, to express your democratic preferences. I'm saying like social media may not be the most independent of the platforms to do that as well.
Yeah, I'd like to build upon that because there's a new trend in democracy which is called allocracy. Is anyone familiar with this? Look at you, you're smiling over there. Allocracy is a real danger to us right now because it uses biased large language models. What is allocracy? It is using algorithms for diplomacy decisions. That's a very scary thing, and it's a very real thing. And it influences policymakers globally. For some of the underserved communities who may not be as educated in this term, there are bots. That's the short term for code robots. Bots are used everywhere, social media particularly. It's very easy to create a bot nowadays. You can just go to ChatGPT and it'll write it for you. So selectivism.
Yes, we are very glad, and we are very, good. We are not in an elevator now. Okay.
Yeah. I think that democracy is not tech supremacy. And it should not be tech supremacy, right? And starting from this, we're going into Homo sapiens, Homo digitalis, and we're thinking that we as humans are the curators of the ethical input and output of the systems. So hiding behind whatever we want to call it, it's something possible, but we should be able to call each other's out and keep each other accountable. So if we're going to leave the democracy to technological players, we're going to be in great trouble, and that's what we're doing today. If we're taking this ownership and putting it among multiple players, then we have a different game and we can all contribute. And why not? Policy, politics, same as, however, I don't want to call the platform names because no one is paying us and they are not mentioning our names for free, so I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to say something. All these lovely platforms, they were created by humans. So why don't we take ownership and create a platform for politics, for democratic justice where we talk about this. So we know that this platform is curated, is being audited, is being designed for and by the people. And that's where we know, okay, this platform is for teens, this platform is for millennials, this is for whatever. How come we don't have a platform for democratic views, for politics? So you know, if you go there, it's audited, it's curated, it respects A, B, C, D. So maybe that would be one way to get this started, is except of using other platforms, A, B, C, whatever, X, Y, Z.
Okay.
There's actually an interesting application in the US. I'm blanking out on the name. I'll find the app on my phone. But what it does is it crowdsources ideas from the subscribers and say, okay, you're in this district, let's say Istanbul, you want to connect with your Istanbul elected representative for Istanbul, what are your issues? So people start putting their issues, then they start voting on it, and then the top issues are sent to the elected representative as like opinions. Alternatively, if the member of the parliament, for example, introduced their legislation, it sends out as like, your Istanbul member of the parliament introduced this legislation, what do you think? And it creates this communication channel. And it also has templates to make it easier for you, saying, you know, I approve this, I don't approve this, I like this idea of the legislation, etc. So it creates more interaction, like not on social media, but you have a direct interaction through this app with your elected representatives, both ways. So what they do comes to you to, you know, to show your preference, but you can also show your politicians, lawmakers, what you think are the most issues, and if that has enough, you know, upvotes, etc., you can attract their attention.
A very short question for you, because we have to finish. Those who have questions, I think that the foyer area, they can ask you their questions, and we can have a small chat. So the question says, Marve mentioned that the data collected are often done so because of their potential of making money, and however, do not rules around data production make them inaccessible, and often such data are not included?
If you are...
For the protection of the private property rights.
Yes, but I will say, you know, just look at your experience. Yes, we have, for example, a data protection authority in the US, sorry, in Turkey, just like we do in Europe, but are you able to effectively use those data protection regulations to your advantage? You mentioned that you're not able to take a company to the court, right, to defend your rights. Are you able to do that with the data protection regulations? What I'm saying is, you know, it's not enough just to have regulations. We need enforcement, and we need capacity, government capacity to enforce and investigate those stuff. A lot of the time, the companies are collecting data knowing that they cannot, and knowing that they might have to pay a fine, but that penalty, that monetary penalty, becomes just like, okay, if I'm going to make $100 from this product, and if I pay $5 for the data protection or like data infringement penalty, I'm still making a lot of profit, so it just becomes, it's meaningless for them, right? It doesn't stop them because there's so much money in making these products, and it's not enough of an
Fees
enforcement.
are not enough.
Yes.
Yeah, fees are not enough because a billion-dollar corporation, a $100,000 fine is nothing. That's a rounding error for them. That's it. So they don't care. They have no motivation.
The traffic fines, like in the $1 million cars are fined like $100.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing more than
It's not enough.
So, for example, in the U.S., Federal Trade Commission has authority to order a company to delete its algorithms and its training data set. So you're saying, like, okay, you collected this data illegally, and you're hurting people. You have to delete it. So you're asking the company to delete its product, right? And say this was illegal data collection. So unless you have that kind of power.
Yeah, you're right.
I hope that, you know, in the coming years we will be talking about more regulations and rules. Today we touched upon about literacy, data collection, awareness, rules and regulations, policies, and how can we prevent them and fight with them. Thank you very much for your very valuable contribution. I really enjoyed the discussion. I hope that you also enjoyed the discussion. Thank you very much for coming. Please enjoy me a warm welcome.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
This is the end of our panels. If you want to have further conversations, I think that we will be in the outside, but now we have to just enjoy the end ceremony.
Go to a group photo or something.
Keep your stuff for a while. Teşekkürler. Ben mi edeyim? Sertifika törenimiz için Başkanımız Saliha Gümrükçoğlu'nu davet ediyoruz. For the certificate ceremony, we are now inviting President of KADEM Saliha Gümrükçoğlu.
Tebrik ediyorum.
Teşekkür ederiz hocam.
Başlayalım hemen şöyle.